I am Jeff Foxworthy, and welcome to Gamekeeper Podcast. If you want to learn more about farming for wildlife and habitat management, then, buddy, you are in the right place. Join the Gamekeeper crew direct from Mossy Oak Land Enhancement Studio as they discuss the latest wildlife and habitat management practices, news, and, of course, hunting. There's no telling what you'll learn, but I'm going to tell you, I bet it's interesting. Enjoy.
We're live in 3, 2, 1.
All right, everybody, here we are. September is here.
It is.
There's a lot going on this month.
Including moisture, precipitation.
Yeah, thanks to Francine.
Praise the Lord.
Praise the Lord for
Yeah.
small miracles.
Yes, everybody, welcome West Point, Mississippi. We're glad to have you here. We're going to be talking terrapins today.
Ooh, talking terrapins?
We got him looking on the couch. We've got a frequent podcaster with us, Mr. Jimmy Stiles.
Thanks for having me, y'all. It's great to be back.
How would you describe yourself? Are you a reptileologist?
I am a herpetologist, so I study reptiles and amphibians. That's my specialty. I'm technically a wildlife biologist. I deal with all kinds of wildlife, but my true passion is reptiles and amphibians.
And you're close to getting your PhD.
I am real close to getting my PhD in the forestry, wildlife, and in the environment college at Auburn University.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I'll give you a star when you get that. You can
I
put
love
it
it.
on your shirt.
So-
I'd say it's meritorious of a 5-star.
So is, Will Goolsby has any part of this, you being able to get a PhD?
He does. I have to convince him I'm worthy. He's on my graduate committee and has provided a lot of great insights on my research that I got.
Well, you know, we were talking at lunch. Part of his PhD has to do with fire in bottomlands and fire in invasive privet.
It does.
And that's what you've been working on, right?
Yeah, I wrapped up a study where we looked at using fire, both prescribed fire as well as high-intensity propane torches to kill privet and eradicate it out of bottomland hardwoods.
It's actually at lunch. He mentioned that he was anxious to talk to you because he said that, I don't run into many people that have been burning in low bottomlands for a long period of time.
I have. We talked at lunch.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's the old adage, a lot of foresters tell you don't ever burn in bottomland hardwoods, but none of my trees ever experienced any ill effects. And
I know you can, but my experience is that it's not so dangerous as it's been made out to me in my early years from people.
Exactly.
I've burned a lot of stuff, and I've never had, to my knowledge, the first tree damaged from it. But I know you could possibly.
Yeah, I mean,
And I'm sure it's not like pine, but it's like this, death-defying act of burning in your hardwoods. Doesn't turn out to be the case for me. In fact, I've seen some great stuff from it, depending on the soil and how much sunlight can come back in after it.
Yeah, my thought would be if a hardwood tree is damaged, there's probably a reason, and it's probably going to be stressed anyway, and probably not going to be a good timber tree anyway. So
exactly.
just getting it out of the way, you're turning it into woodpecker food, and
It's funny, the place I can think of that was kind of scrubby and not super productive in a lot of ways that I had, and we just lit it on fire, head fired it, and just ripped it. And it had so many kind of unwanted species, I would say. Wasn't great soil to start with. And we've ended up with, after maybe 10, 12 years of burning that pretty intensely, we've ended up with a better looking place with a lot of, it's kind of that almost stays in that early successional phase. It grows right back when we burn it, but it's gotten rid of a lot of those unwanted species. And honestly, it seems like the oaks have survived that better than any of the little hardwoods that were in it.
Yeah, that's what we found. I mean, the oaks do great. And I mean, we had some mortality on like some ironwoods and some of that sort of stuff. But the amount of herbaceous vegetation, when we started our baseline, we had 0 to 5% coverage of herbaceous plants, and when we finished, we had over 90% herbaceous cover in all of our study plots.
that's a lot of free food.
Yeah.
That is, and it's like like bacchus,
Yeah.
can be. It doesn't like fire at all.
Uh-uh.
But it's amazing. The one thing that seems like no matter how hot I got it, and it could just be an anomaly to this area, but it was like the cherry barks.
Yeah.
Were so resistant, just as good as a pine tree to the fire.
I don't think
And
it's an anomaly.
and I mean, they just kept growing. Even some younger stuff that got burnt pretty bad just kept on growing.
Yeah, I don't think it's an anomaly. I mean, in all of our study plots, the cherry bark seem the most resistant. Yeah. We've got some overcups that, like that outer bark's singed a little bit, because it's flakier than.
Yeah, I would yield to Dudley always on species, but it seems like the wetter the species, whatever, especially overcup because the flaky bark, but even Nuttall has a tight bark. You would think they'd be a little more susceptible maybe than stuff that have evolved in upland areas that probably ran into fire more during history.
One thing I overheard my buddy Kyle Liebarger talking about was that the size of the leaves and like the thickness of the leaves. Mm-hmm. So like a cherry bark or a shumard is lobed, and it's also, it may help it sit up in like the soil profile more, whereas like a water oak or willow oak will lay flat and it'll trap moisture, and so it may keep them from burning. So they may not have had to adapt and have thicker bark.
Yeah, I mean,
a
good friend of mine who's a fire ecologist down at Tall Timbers, Morgan Varner, has done a lot of work, and he considers cherry barks, overcups, even white oaks to be pyrogenic oaks because they do those lobes curl up, get a lot more airflow, and burn very readily.
Right.
Yeah, just even though
good way of explaining what I wasn't able to explain.
Yeah, just getting more air there.
Yeah.
To the fuel. But I mean, to me, if all the fuel you have to worry about is oak leaf or a hardwood leaf mat, and that's it, no extra grasses or brushy stuff. I mean, how could you get enough? I mean, it's hard enough to get that to burn at all.
Yeah, I mean,
how could that hurt, especially if you're burning in semi-mature stuff?
Yeah, I mean, we've never had any raging fires. I mean, we get 2-3 foot flame lengths, nice low intensity fires, even when we're backfire or head firing through them. But
did I just hear some growling?
Our guest is trying to escape.
Our special guest is trying to make a run for it.
Jimmy doesn't seem to be freaking out about it, and we're all kind of looking at each other.
No, I just thought
what?
It was fixing to be jailbreak a minute ago. He's fixing to flip that basket over. Watch.
So we've got.
I heard him growling.
Sitting next to Jimmy is, would you say he's 100 pounds, 75 to 100 pounds?
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely over 60, 70 pounds.
He's a great big alligator snapping turtle.
His head is big as Bobby's. It's amazing how big their heads are. And you hear that clicking in the background. He's been trying to get out of this.
It's like a big old Tupperware.
Big old Walmart tub,
Well, you could go catch him. And
he is absolutely hell-bent on coming out of that thing.
All right, so Jimmy's picking him up anyway.
We'll put him in his lap like a French poodle.
I don't think he's going to do that. There's certain things about your lap you don't want near a snapping turtle.
Yeah, exactly. Especially this guy right here.
All right, Jimmy, you're going to have to sit back or move that microphone so we can hear you. There you go.
Bobby, you don't have to put your, I told y'all.
He's got to be able to.
I'm going to do the rest of it with my feet up on the table.
I'll just put my feet on the turtle.
So, Jimmy, we've invited you here we really wanted to do kind of a species profile on the alligator snapping turtle. And it looks like you've just knocked it out of the park and brought an ancient old dinosaur over here with you. Is this your turtle?
It is. This one's actually a good friend of mine's. I ended up getting him for him. This guy was kept in captivity by Nature Center for a long time. Outgrew his tanks at the Nature Center, and a friend of mine that I do education with a lot has like a big pond where the turtle can live, and so we moved him into that big pond. My wife also runs a science center, incidentally called Turtle Point Science Center, so they have a lot of turtles there. She's got one. It's a little bit smaller than this one, but again, we've got a few of them, but they live in big outdoor ponds with filtration and all that sort of stuff.
They're probably the most feared of all the turtles, I would say. Would you agree with that?
Oh, absolutely.
So,
I mean, rightly so. I mean, it's the largest turtle that we have in North America, and they got quite a imposing head on them.
So I've always heard if they bit you, they won't let go till it thunders. Now I know that's a wives' tale, but
it is a wives' tale. But and I've heard that so many times, and I would never handle one of these ever again if I didn't know there was an imminent thunderstorm coming.
So you were mentioning, as we were getting ready, that you actually knew somebody that had a finger bitten off by one of these.
Yeah, I knew a guy. Tangentially, I wouldn't say we're friends or anything, but he was messing with one, and it did bite his finger off, and that's been documented a couple of times now.
So there's some pressure in those jaws.
Yeah, we don't know exactly, but it's been estimated that they have a bite force of about 1,000 pounds per square inch, which, to put it in perspective, like a close to 14-foot alligator was measured at 2,000 pounds per square inch. So they got quite the bite on them.
So how do you age these things?
Well, there's no great way to age them, unfortunately, and unless you kind of know when they were born, you can't really just like look at them and age them or look at a particular part. Some people have tried, experimenting with looking for annuli. So a lot of species of animals, reptiles and amphibians included, you can look at annuli, which they get because they slow down in the winter. Their metabolic rate slows down, so they don't grow as much. So just like a tree, you'd think of a tree ring, right? Mm-hmm. Tree rings have annuli. But we haven't found a good annuli on alligator snappers. So honestly, unless you kind of know how old they are, we've got some growth data. A friend of mine played around with some growth data. So we do a lot of trapping where we catch turtles, we'll mark the turtles, and then we recatch them. And that helps us look at populations as well as growth. And we've recaptured some, decades later and looked at the growth and kind of tried to model that out. But we believe, certainly over 100 years would be an easy estimate, maybe as much as 200 years.
Hey guys, listen up. Let me tell you about an awesome deal Springfield Armory is offering now through the end of 2024. When you purchase a brand new model 2020 Waypoint or Redline rifle, you'll receive a model 2020 rimfire rifle with a black synthetic stock absolutely free. That's an over $400 value on the house. You know we love Springfield Armory and their top-notch products you'd be proud to hand down to your kids and grandkids. So why wait? Learn more about this incredible offer at GearUp2024.com. Springfield Armory. Defend your legacy.
So let's do this. I'm going to let Mac ask the first question. He's always got good questions. But before that, would you just say, what is the range of these things? So somebody listening here, if they're in Texas, could they encounter one of these?
Absolutely. East Texas has alligator snapping turtles all the way up to Missouri, across pretty much to the Atlantic Ocean. They can be found. But primarily the southeastern United States Gulf Coast region is their core of their range.
Yeah.
Interesting.
All right, Mac.
Yeah, so I'm curious about the shell. So is the shell like a bone or what is that in relation to its body parts?
All right. So all turtles, I should say, or certainly most turtles, the ones that we think of, are comprised of basically two things. I brought a shell. So on the outside of the shell is covered by these scutes, which are made of keratin. Same thing our fingernails are made of, and a lot of reptile scales are made of. And then underneath is bone. So their ribs and their vertebrae are actually fused to the shell. So it's a dual purpose, or I mean a dual component sort of creation. Keratin laid over bone. So a lot of people in the cartoons, you'll see turtles crawling out of their shell like a hermit crab, to go find another shell. Well, turtles can't do that. Their shell grows with them as they age and grow. And the bigger they get, the more bone they produce. And then they can actually shed these keratin scutes and regrow the keratin scutes that cover the bone. But yeah, if you crack that shell, it can be real bad. You can damage the vertebrae or damage the ribs. Their lungs are very close to the ribs, just like
when you
ours.
said crack the shell, he started moving again.
I know he didn't like that.
That idea.
So those scoots remind me of an alligator scoot. Is there any? I mean, is that the same material? I mean, it's obviously a lot harder on that turtle, but is it a similar concept? I guess
it is. The osteoderms on the back of an alligator are very similar. It's keratin over top of bone.
Wow.
How old is that turtle?
This turtle is actually surprisingly young. This one's about 20 to 30 years old. So
He looks older than that.
So-
he
He's had a
definitely,
rough
and I
time.
think a lot of people look at these big turtles and they think, man, that thing's got to be over 100 years old. But they have very rapid growth, particularly in very productive waters. So if they're in a place that has a lot of food, like the Mississippi Delta or Mobile Tensaw Delta, they can get big real fast.
can they survive in brackish water?
They can survive in brackish water. In fact, we've caught them in the Mobile Tensaw Delta that actually had barnacles on their shell. So there is some evidence that they could potentially, get out in enough salt content to grow barnacles on them.
I saw one with a Salt Life sticker one time.
Yeah, I mean,
You ever caught one, Toxie, when you were running trot lines or anything?
Yes, I have, but not that big. No.
yeah, they're that's actually one of the biggest incidental mortalities that
Yeah.
they face is trot lines, abandoned trot lines.
Well, we would always just cut it and let them go.
Yeah.
Immediately.
Yeah, that was my first experience. As we pulled up a trot line and one was hooked right below the.
Yeah,
The shell.
Not that big though.
No, it wasn't. No.
But I mean, decent size.
Yeah.
I always just imagine one under a cypress tree waiting for a wood duck hatchling to just hop down in the water. Will they eat? Will they eat? I mean, what all do they eat? I mean, will they eat a duck?
They're primarily designed to eat fish. That's their main prey is fish. In fact, they have that. We showed it earlier. That little lingual lure.
Lingual lure. So I'm assuming lingual means tongue, right?
He grabbed the. I was going to say, do they ever eat tennis shoes? I was going to ask you, Mac. I saw him headed towards your Skechers, I guess those are.
That's exactly what it means. Is lingual refers to the tongue. So on their tongue, they have a little wiggly red projection. Looks just like a red wiggler.
I mean, it's the exact same color.
And they'll sit there on the bottom of a river with their mouth totally open, and they'll just wiggle that little lure back and forth. And when some brim or bass or catfish is bold enough to try and go grab that lure, boom, that's when they snap their jaws down and they got dinner.
Wow.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah,
really
it's
is.
pretty amazing to watch them eat.
Where would a guy encounter this? Would it be on a river system like the Tom Bigby, the Alabama River, or would it be in a swamp?
Yeah, they it's funny because a lot of people kind of get these confused with the common snapping turtle. And common snapping turtles, I just happen to bring one of those too.
Yeah, when he says he brings one, he's not talking about Here's a shell we found on the side of the road. It is a live, for the audience, this is another live turtle.
The common snapper looks similar, and they can get pretty big. They can get
but the head is a huge difference.
60, 70 pounds. But yeah, the head is strikingly different. The big ridges going down the back of the alligator snapper are different. And they inhabit different areas generally. The alligator snapper, you're right, Bobby. They're often associated with big rivers, the Tombigbee, the Mississippi, things like that, or potentially even oxbows off of those big river systems. But like farm ponds, things like that, you're not going to find alligator snapping turtles in those. But a lot of people come to me and they're like, "Oh man, we got one of those big alligator snappers in my farm pond out back," and what they're referring to is just a big common snapper. But these guys, I have found them in not small creeks, but medium sized creeks. But those are often directly connected to either larger rivers or to the Gulf of Mexico itself.
Wow.
Can you just look at them and tell whether that's a male or a female?
I mean, you kind of can. So on these guys, the males have long tails, and often the cloaca will extend past the back of the shell. So if you got one that's got a cloaca that extends past the tail, you can be pretty sure it's a male. Females have a little bit shorter tails.
I'm not going to ask you to explain where the cloaca is, but just use your imagination, folks.
Yeah, it's on the bottom of the tail.
Yep.
That thing, I just can't imagine the strength that alligator snapping turtle must have, and just in his neck.
Well, he's telling us that this common snapper, right,
Yeah.
can get bigger than even that too.
Yeah, they can. These guys can get as big as the alligator snapper I brought today. Now, the alligator snapping turtle I brought today is not like a giant one. I mean, they can get twice this size. The largest alligator snapping turtle ever recorded weighed 211 pounds. And for reference, this guy's we said about 70 pounds.
Right.
Biggest common snapper I've ever caught trapping weighed right at 70 pounds. So,
that's a big one, though. So is part of the difference that one of them lives a lot longer than the other? Does the alligator live a lot more?
I mean, to be honest, Toxie, we don't really know.
Wow.
Just because
who can live long enough to see?
Right, they're such a long-lived species,
It'd
and
be
the only
like
way
a
we know.
3-generation test to see. Right, I inherited it from my
Exactly.
grandkids, and I still got this thing.
Yeah, I mean, with like some of the tortoises, that's how we know that they lived to be over 200 years, is because people collected them 200 years ago, and they've been passed down through generations in a family.
But you don't have you said earlier, you don't have the growth rings like we do with trees. We can go bore a tree and see to the year when it was born,
So what got you so interested in turtles?
I mean, turtles are just fascinating. I mean, they're such amazing creatures. They got the shell. When I was a little kid, I was kind of always fascinated about reptiles and amphibians. And I mean, honestly, it was probably alligator snapping turtles that really got me into it, because I saw, one as a kid, and I was just like, that thing is so big and dinosaur-like and amazing, And then, growing up, I was always kind of interested in turtles. But then about 20 years ago, we took a job. My wife and I took a job studying gopher tortoises, doing radio telemetry, following gopher tortoises around. And ever since then, the two of us have just been kind of crazy about turtles. We love turtles.
Bobby, you've said that it's like, I know this is sidebar, big picture thing I'm pulling us all off on, but it's so cool when you say we have them in here all the time, and I see it in y'all's eyes. But when you literally what you're doing, what God put you here for, and he hit that, because he's absorbed with it, obsessed with it, fascinated with it, the energy,
you can read it like a book.
Yeah, it's like he can't wait to get up and get after it in the morning every day, because it's not even like a job. I love it so much. It's cool to see. When he told that story, I was thinking, there you go again. It's like there's something out there for everybody.
Oh yeah,
on this earth, that there's a place for you. Just pray that you can find it, like he did.
Absolutely. I mean, You nailed it.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't consider anything I do really, quote, work. I
That's
mean,
so cool.
I
just
get
had to
up
point
every
that out to
day and
people.
I'm like, oh, what am I going to do now? Am I going to go over and, hang out with you guys, or am I going to go catch some giant turtles, or go look at some snakes, or, burn some bottomlands, I mean, every day is a new adventure.
If you ever get, what's my saying about that? Careful, because when I grow up someday, I want your job.
See these people? When the clock strikes 5, it's not the end. It's just the beginning. They have to do these things. They have to do those things. Enter the all-new LS Tractor MT2 and MT2E, a relentless force of innovation. Redesigned with a new hood and cab built for comfort and visibility, with enhanced lifting capacity to get the job done. Making these people the ones everyone else calls those people. Visit your local LS Tractor dealer today.
Hey, Lanny.
Hey, Bobby.
Have you ever wondered if your feeder went off? Or if it's even got corn in it?
Yeah, you sit there at night wondering about it.
Moultrie has solved this. This is some high-tech stuff.
Fits on any feeder that helps monitor the level of feed and lets you know if it went off or not. And you can remotely control it.
Can I look at your feeder if we're on the hub?
I really hope not, but we're going to have to talk to the guys at Moultrie about that. This is the biggest thing in feeders since corn.
That's saying a lot.
With Feed Hub, there's no more stressing, no more guessing. This technology allows you to remotely monitor your feeders.
We always say feed safely, do it the right way.
No doubt about it.
To learn more about it, visit moultrieproducts.com/feedhub. It's a great invention.
Unbelievable technology and products brought to us by our buddies at Moultrie.
So for you to bring these to Alabama, did you have to have some kind of permits?
Well, in Mississippi, you're allowed to actually have all these turtles with a hunting license. So I got a hunting license here in Mississippi. Now in Alabama, the alligator snapping turtle is a protected species. We don't allow harvest of them. Here in Mississippi, you're allowed to possess one alligator snapping turtle over a certain size. And then I think it's up to, I can't remember in Mississippi, maybe you're allowed one of each of the other species, or maybe it's up to 3 of each of the other species. I know in Alabama, the non-protected turtles, you're allowed to harvest 5 turtles a day. So you're allowed 5 turtles.
So Mississippi lets you hunt these things.
Yeah, Mississippi does allow you to hunt them, as long as they're over the legal size.
I think Mac's got it. What you got, Mac?
Yeah, so in Mississippi, a person can have up to 10 non-game turtles per license, but no more than 4 can be of the same species or subspecies.
Okay.
Well, we need to get some pet turtles.
So what is a game turtle? What's considered a game? Obviously, the alligator would be one, but
pretty much all of the non-protected turtles. So there's a few really cool turtles in Mississippi. A lot of people don't realize how incredibly diverse Alabama and Mississippi are as far as our turtles go.
Home sweet home.
And Alabama's ranked number 1. I think Mississippi is, Texas is 2, but Texas is huge, so obviously. But I think Mississippi is like maybe 3 or 4. We're all in the top 5 as far as turtle diversity. And Mississippi has some endemic turtles that don't occur anywhere else. Same with Alabama. And so those are obviously not allowed to be game species.
Okay. Yeah, I was reading that there's a species of alligator snapping turtle called a Sewanee.
Yeah.
Alligator snapping turtle, and when I was looking at them, I couldn't tell the difference between the two.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of a slight difference. Up until recently, they were all considered the same species. But recently, with genetic analysis, and there are some morphological differences, some little morphological differences. Coloration is one of those. They've been split off. The Swanee River alligator snapping turtle obviously is over in Georgia, Florida. That area. But
do you eat these things?
I'm not wild about snapping turtle. I've had some really good snapping turtle. It's got to be prepared just right.
Is there a turtle that you go, my goodness, that is going to be delicious?
I mean, I can't lie. Being a turtle conservationist, I can't, speak too much about that. But I will say, soft shell turtle is pretty amazing. I've made. My favorite recipe I've ever made with them was a spicy Szechuan soft shell with shiitake mushroom stir fry.
Oh,
And
okay.
we made that at deer camp one day, and it was a favorite at the deer camp. That's for sure.
So does it burn you up? I mean, thinking back, a lot of folks growing up learned to shoot a 22 at shooting at turtles on a log. So is that something that you're just completely against, or how does that make you feel?
Yeah, I don't like it. We have target ranges for a reason. I love the hunting fish. Senseless wanton waste of our wildlife is, to me, it's unexcusable. So yeah, don't just go around shooting turtles. Clearly, if you want to harvest a turtle and it's sustainable, hey, go right ahead. That's why we have game laws, and if it fits within the North American model of conservation and we can sustainably harvest those, that's great. But yeah, if you're just going out and shooting turtles off logs because you got nothing better to shoot at, go to the target range, or pick up a beer can and shoot at it or something. But just randomly shooting at wild animals for no particular reason.
So this one, for everybody that can't see this again, this one picked up and went about maybe 20 feet over there to the one little refrigerator we have. It's probably a beer in there.
He really wants something out of that fridge.
He's been to that fridge every time. I don't know if it's the vibration or the cool air or what, but he's going straight to that. And you can't see him now. He's got his head like he wants to open the door.
It could be emitting some warmth out from underneath the fridge.
That could be, or it could be.
But he sensed whatever it is from 20 feet away.
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy?
That's exactly where he went last time.
Same thing is what.
I think he might be interested. Turtles aren't the brightest. He sees that dark thing and he thinks, oh, maybe I can disappear into the darkness over there and they'll quit messing with me. But
I noticed when he was walking, though, it's funny. I was wondering if you put a lift kit on him or something, but they don't just crawl flat across the ground. They lift way up, and I'm assuming because they're always living in mud, they have to lift way up to be able to walk in it. But he's raised up 6-8 inches off the ground, high as he can on his tiptoes when he crawls.
Yeah,
and interesting looking.
Yeah,
and I think you're right. I think that is so that because they are in such muddy habitats,
4-wheel drive,
and also to get up. If you're a turtle, you kind of want to see where you're going. You got to lift yourself up. To see over the grass. I don't bet you he fears much. They are pretty much a classic apex predator. When they're little tiny things, hatchlings, particularly the eggs are predated. That's a big problem with turtle conservation is actually our mesopredator populations, just like turkeys, foxes, raccoons, possums, things like that get on their nesting beaches and will dig up nest and eat the eggs. But once they get that size, there's pretty much nothing out there that's going to eat them other than, a person.
I was somewhere and an biologist was talking about seeing some crows eat on a beach eating turtle eggs.
Absolutely. Yeah, crows. And a lot of times what the crows will do is they'll wait for a raccoon or something like that to dig up a turtle nest, expose the turtle nest, and then the crows will get in there and peck at those.
Heads up, Mac, incoming, Richie. I shouldn't have said anything. Watch Richie scramble. He's acted so brave over there all this time. I would love to see him with that turtle nudging his feet.
It's kind of like a pet cat checking out a new room. He's just doing it a lot more slowly.
I wish that this turtle's like, say, what do you say, 15 inches across, side to side, maybe 2 feet long.
2 feet long.
And I'm telling you, the head on this thing is big as a half a football or more.
Yeah.
Bigger than half a football.
Yeah.
And a long tail.
It's got long tail. That's a big, big boy, or honestly, a medium-sized boy. But the males in alligator snappers get quite a bit larger than the females do.
Where do we get terrapin?
So the terrapin, kind of the term refers to a really cool turtle that lives on the Gulf Coast in the salt marshes called the Diamondback terrapins. And Diamondback terrapins were a really common food, like a prized food item way back in the day. Unfortunately, to the detriment of the turtle, they almost caused their extinction. But the Alabama and Mississippi salt marshes are kind of the stronghold. And there's a place off of Dauphin Island called Cedar Point, and there used to be a big terrapin farm there off of Cedar Point that supplied terrapins for all around the world. But terrapins are cool. The Diamondback terrapin is our only brackish, like fully brackish water turtle species. They only live in, that estuarine and salt marsh environment.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's so funny. He went all the way back across the room to this dark black, the only other dark black thing in here.
Yeah.
Now I talked about him, and
He's coming at you.
Yeah.
He's like,
Dude,
maybe
I
I'll
didn't
go
mean
over
it.
there.
I didn't mean it. But he just sat there looking at it like, put me back in the box. Now he's coming for me again.
So you know how sometimes you fish an area, like you'll be fishing down the river, and you'll see a turtle pop its head up.
Yep.
And then go back down. That's probably not a snapping turtle, is it?
I mean, it's probably not. I mean, snapping turtles do that to some extent, but like I said, we have a lot of different species, and we have a lot of basking species that sit on the. We're all familiar. We round the bend in the boat, and all the turtles fall off the log. I lost my train of thought because I thought I was heading for Dudley's feet, but anyway, a lot of times we see those turtles popping up, but I have seen alligator snapping turtles come up to the surface, get a breath, and they'll actually kind of float there. Again, absorbing that sunlight through the water, warming themselves up.
I've seen 100,000 turtle heads in a pond over my life. I've
never seen
not one like that,
Yeah.
unless he stuck his nose up, and that's all we saw. But never have I seen a turtle head like that pop up. Ever.
Yeah.
That's kind of where I was going with
I
it.
bet
You-
they're pretty smart about where they come up and
Yeah. I mean, they're really intelligent creatures, and alligator snapping turtles, the males, we believe they almost never come out of the water. When they're born, they'll scurry down, or when they hatch out of the eggs, they'll scurry down to the waterway, and they'll remain in that water pretty much their entire life. That's why they get so much algae, and like I said, barnacles, all kinds of things grow on their shells.
Yeah.
what about their breathing? How often, in an average time of year, how often does an adult need to come up to breathe? Do you know?
I mean, it's really variable. So, being ectothermic, cold-blooded is termed. It's totally dependent on the water temperature. So if the water's really warm, their metabolic rate's really high. They might need to come up, once every 30 minutes, maybe once every hour. In the wintertime, they could stay under water for days.
So what do they do in the winter? By the
Maybe
way,
a
what's the hibernation
a lot of
technique
times,
or whatever for them?
a lot of times they'll find a spot, kind of a backwater eddy, something like that's got a log, and they'll just kind of tuck up under that log. Or a lot of times they're highly associated with cypress knees. The big cypress bowls of bald cypress. They'll get up in. A lot of times there'll be cavities up under those. They'll get up in one of those, and they just sit there all winter, just doing nothing.
They're pretty much frozen. So if you were to step on one, if it was 20 degrees, he couldn't move.
Yeah, no, I mean, they wouldn't do anything. You would be like, that's a funny feeling rock up under me while I was duck hunting.
Right.
That's where Taxi was going with that.
Yeah, I mean, I know. I have those same thoughts. I think the same thing about alligators while I'm out duck hunting.
Yeah, I would be more concerned about alligators than this neat looking guy here.
But I mean, I've certainly stepped on turtles while I was duck hunting.
Do y'all feed this guy, or does he just find his own food?
Oh no, we feed him. We feed him fish, and he gets a little like chicken snack. But they're like I said, they're totally carnivorous. So fish and chicken is pretty much his primary food.
So you just walk up to him and put a piece of chicken on a stick or something, let him eat it off?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, these guys are so smart. You can just throw it right in front of him.
And he'll go up, walk up and eat it.
He'll walk right up and eat it. And the fish, we just throw the fish in there. We tend to feed them frozen fish or frozen thawed fish because of parasites. We want to limit the availability of parasites. But every once in a while, he'll get a live fish just for fun, because instill that
just like old times say.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So I was thinking these things were protected.
They are in a lot of states. They are protected. Like I said, Alabama, they're a protected species. Georgia's protected. But there are some states like Mississippi, Louisiana, where there's a large enough population that it's sustainable. I can tell I'm going to have to go get this turtle here in a second.
Yeah, or Richie may have to.
He's roaming around.
I think we're all brave enough to put up with his ramblings. Bobby?
Grab him.
Yeah.
Come on, you were Bobby was giggling at me
I'm
a minute
okay
ago.
for
Don't drop him,
time
Mac.
You got him?
Oh, wait.
Mac just jumped.
You might want to let
I
our
better
guest
go
get
get
him.
him.
Mac, we got a lot of work left. Mac, let him get him.
This one's kind of hard.
I mean, that's heavy.
Man.
That's a lot of work picking that thing up. That's heavier than a sack of fertilizer.
Big time. He's going to come out of that, too. I don't know why, Bobby. It's like...
We put the cage on top now.
He's going to knock all that off. He knows he can get out now.
What's their miles per hour?
You mean hours per mile?
Yeah, miles per hour. Less than a mile for many hours. But like I said, the males stay underwater, but the females come out to nest.
Right.
And it's pretty amazing how far females will travel to nest. In most cases, it's relatively close to land, close to the water. But I did one of the most amazing nests I found was in a school in their playground in the mulch. They had a bunch of alligator snapping turtles just start hatching out of the mulch in their school playground, and they called me to come get them. And this playground was 2 miles straight line linear distance from the river that turtle probably lived in, and about 150 yards up a pretty steep hill from a little tiny feeder creek. So that female turtle clearly came out of the big river, went up a smaller creek, then up a little, as we would call it, crick, and then straight up this hill, and then found that mulch in that playground was like, this is the prime place to lay my nest. So
do they just lay them and the eggs incubate themselves, maybe based on the ground heat or the wood decomposing in the mulch pile or whatever?
That's exactly what they do. They lay their nest. The female leaves, never returns. They do try and tend to pick kind of open, sunny area where it can stay warm. And in all turtles, the sex of the animal is determined by the temperature. They have what we call temperature-dependent sex determination, like alligators. And for alligator snapping turtles, the warmer that nest is, the more females will be produced. The cooler nest produce males, and it's pretty interesting. There's a pretty finite temperature switch in there. That if it gets over that egg will turn into a female. If it gets,
is it like any time during the egg, or is it a certain?
No, it's a pretty specific time during the incubation period.
I'll be dang, that's incredible.
Where that switch occurs,
I was just going to point out how incredible nature is, because we could do it millions of times and never run out of miracles. But the fact that she just endured what she did to get to a spot is just her instinct to spread the species out and expand, you know,
Absolutely.
which is their instinct. They're governed by. It's crazy how
Yeah.
nature is just filled with that everywhere.
And
you know?
and she knows like the kind of the ideal spot to lay it to where, you know, hopefully that temperature will be, you know, depending on the depth of the nest, you know, kind of a 50-50 split between females and males in the clutch is, I mean, honestly, we don't understand a whole lot about. That's why I love science. Is there's so much about nature that we don't know.
Yeah, that
gosh.
I mean, and
Miraculous.
this is way off subject, but a friend and I saw one of those lubber grasshoppers the other day. Those black and red grasshoppers.
Oh, yeah.
Supposedly, they can tell the difference in the pH of a soil down to a tenth.
Oh wow!
So, like from
Yeah.
4.7 to 4.8.
How do they how do they let you know?
I don't
that?
know, but
Do they
that
like-
might be some. Read up on it, but I mean, it's really interesting. Maybe it has something to do with where they lay their eggs or where they get their food. But
Yeah, I mean, it's always that sort of stuff amazes me, and what really got me fascinated. One of the many things that got me fascinated about turtles was their internal compass. We followed, like I said, gopher tortoises for a long time, and gopher tortoises have like a GPS built into their brain that allows them to navigate through the woods, and they can go miles through the woods, knowing that if I go this direction and I follow this, I'll hit my burrow, or the burrow of the you know female I want to visit or whatever. And there's actually been studies that if you take them, and that's another thing about turtles, we encourage people not to move turtles a long distance because there's been some studies where if you take a turtle and you move it a long distance, that turtle knows where it came from and it's going to want to go back to that area. And of course, if there's lots of roads or things like that, that's kind of a death sentence for tortoises and other turtles. So if we say if we're doing a project where we have to move turtles, we'll actually build acclimation pens for them and stick them in there and let them spend a couple of years forming social networks and things before we pull those fences up and allow them to just, you know, live on their own. Because if we don't, and you just go take a turtle and you move it 100 miles and drop it off, it's going to start wandering back towards its home. And, you know, of course, in our modern era, it's going to encounter a lot of roads in that distance.
Wow.
The Furminator is the industry's most versatile piece of food plot equipment, allowing plotters to do every step of the process, working the soil, adding seed and soil supplements, and compacting, from start to finish with a single implement. It's hassle-free by design. Set it for the seed size and simply drive the tractor, and the Furminator does the rest. Check it out at thefurminator.com.
Nosler is known for their bullets, and now they're making suppressors. Nosler suppressors are made for hunting. Adding a Nosler suppressor to your rifle will make you a quieter, more accurate, and more effective hunter. Protect your hearing and disturb less game with a Nosler suppressor. The time to hunt quiet is now. Learn more at nosler.com.
The month of May, my wife just goes crazy. The turtles that are on the road, it's
yeah.
watch out, watch out, watch out. We have to stop and get out and help them across the road. It's the most dangerous thing I've encountered all year long.
Yeah, it is. And I mean, that's the one thing we always tell people. I mean, I love it when people stop to save turtles or swerve to miss a turtle. But you got to be really careful. You don't want to like get out in traffic and get hit yourself.
No.
You know, so
That's what my dad taught us all as kids when we started driving. It's like a dog, a deer, a turtle, or whatever is in the road. Don't like swerve off the road
Yeah.
to miss it or whatever. Slow down, and try to, you know, turtle, you could straddle it. But it's
Yeah.
like, because he was worried about, you
Yeah.
know, because I know people have died swerving to miss something, a dog or a deer in the road, and run off the road and killed herself.
yeah,
You
absolutely.
know, or had really bad wrecks, you know, and they're still alive, thank God.
Me and my
Now,
wife
but,
were going home, and we swerved to miss a cottontail rabbit of all things.
Yeah.
And the
Don't-
back tire went off, and we almost got in a really bad wreck one day.
Yeah, I almost did once, and he reminded me, and I didn't have a wreck, but I almost did. I felt like I almost flipped the truck, He said, "I told you, son, just hit the damn deer if you have to.
Yeah.
But you need to come home."
Absolutely.
So
your wife's into all this stuff too.
Oh yeah, she loves reptiles and amphibians. We worked together for many years doing scientific research on reptiles and amphibians, and like I said, now she runs a science and education center near us called Turtle Point, and she's fascinated by wildlife. She has most of the species that occur in the state of Alabama at her science center.
wow.
Loves teaching about turtles.
Well, thanks for what y'all do. I know you really enjoy it, but you're making a huge impact on all of our youngins growing up and us.
Yeah, and I may have missed that, but you said do kids take field trips to the?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, kids. So it's.
Sorry if I missed that, but that would be such a cool thing for my grandkids.
You
now.
didn't.
I would have eaten that up as a kid.
I didn't explain it, but it's actually run by the county school system, so it's technically listed as a school. And it's kind of funny. She's technically a principal, which I find hysterical. But schools from all over, not just that county, but all over Alabama, take field trips there, and she shows them the different wildlife and biodiversity we have. They have big boardwalk, all that sort of stuff. And we also, both of us do a lot with teachers, teaching the teachers.
Right.
Because that's a big thing that we're into is, it's amazing to teach kids, but, you can kind of force multiply if you're teaching the teachers as well.
You cool with like pet shops selling turtles for pets and stuff, or is that a no-no that you wouldn't like to see? Or
I'm somewhat conflicted by it because
you would be. Honestly,
that sort of stuff and being able to have like a pet turtle really instills like a conservation ethic, but I want it done right, and a lot of pet stores aren't necessarily doing it right. So I love the idea of having that. Obviously, I have pet turtles.
Oh, yeah.
But we want to do it right. We don't want to take turtles and house them improperly. I get lots of turtles that were kept by people improperly. Most of these turtles came that way. So we want people to do it. Just do it right. Learn about the turtle, commit to what you're going to do. Don't think that, I can just keep it for a little bit and release it. Unless like you find a box turtle in your backyard, you want to keep it for a week, learn about it, feed it, enjoy it, and then let it go back where you found it.
Yeah, speaking of
that's amazing.
I'd always been told like the box turtles, don't touch them. They carry certain diseases or whatever.
Yeah.
What's a good, we need people to know the truth about that too. Wouldn't we need to be real careful, you think?
I mean, no, okay. That's very overblown. Really? So back decades ago, there were a few people that got salmonella again from these pet shops that were not keeping their turtles properly, and some kids got salmonella. But the way I like to describe it, your chances of getting salmonella are much higher from eating at a salad bar than they are from touching a turtle. So you don't. I mean, it could happen,
right?
But there's so much greater risks in the world than worrying about whether you get salmonella from touching a turtle.
Yeah.
Or leprosy from touching an armadillo.
Yeah.
I would say that would be much more likely than salmonella from touching a turtle. Okay. I don't go up and kiss armadillos or anything.
No, I'm not going to be doing that either.
Yeah.
It's pretty fascinating, and it's amazing to see, Toxie pointed it out, but your enthusiasm for all these.
Yeah, I mean, I love all wildlife. I mean, that's why I've gotten into wildlife.
Me too.
And forestry is, I grew up hunting and fishing. My dad studied fish, and I kind of rebelled against him and studied reptiles and amphibians, but we always hunted, fished, and we're outside as much as possible. And I just, I've fallen in love with it. Love all wildlife, but particularly our underappreciated wildlife. It's easy to get people to like deer and turkeys. I mean, Lord knows I love deer and turkeys, but it's a little bit harder to get people to love these misunderstood animals like, alligator snapping turtles and snakes and things like that.
I know on your social media, y'all are always out creeking, looking, trying to find that rare little fish species in a certain creek. But I mean, a lot of people are thinking like, I don't really have anything to do. It's not deer season. My food plots are done. I mean, just get out there and get in a creek and look at the rocks and
absolutely
just find something to be interested in.
Go to your local creek. It's hot in the summer in the South. Get out in the creek, explore. I mean, honestly, you want to talk about? I've killed a lot of deer by walking up and down those creeks, and then you find those creek crossings for deer, or you might be out there and hear that turkey gobble if you're just out there at the right time during the summer, and you can get a lot of scouting in. But you can also find some amazing fish and turtles and all that sort of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
have you got any ideas or information of how important the turtles were to the Native Americans?
Yeah, I mean, turtles were often found in Native American, culture. I mean, obviously they depended on them for a food resource, but they were also a part of the spiritual culture. And there's definitely a big tie with Native Americans and turtles. They've created big turtle effigies, and they were really important to Native American culture in the South.
So Courtney told us that all you biologist types like to come up with your spirit animal.
Yeah.
What would yours be?
I mean, like she said, it tends to be given to people, and I've been called a rattlesnake. I mean, I do love rattlesnakes, just because I'm pretty territorial, and but I'm also really easygoing.
That would not be a rattlesnake.
It takes a lot of prodding to get me mad, but when I do get mad,
so you'd be a timber rattler if you were.
I'm more of a timber rattlesnake sort of guy, or a pig. I like thinking myself more like a pygmy rattlesnake. I mean, I'm not big and intimidating either, so I'm just kind of creeping around in the forest floor,
Bobby, you love putting people on the spot. What's your spirit animal?
I don't know. I really haven't given it any thought.
Mine either.
Well, I mean, it's not for you to decide. It's for all your friends.
I was thinking, a lemur maybe.
Yeah, I don't even know what that is. So are these the same? These snapping turtles? When I hear people talk about, I saw a big old loggerhead, is that the same thing?
Yeah, it's kind of funny because everybody calls snapping turtles loggerheads, just because of that big old head. And oftentimes,
a loggerhead sea turtle, though.
There is a loggerhead sea turtle, and there's also a loggerhead musk turtle. I did bring this one cute little guy. I have to get him out.
Oh, okay, another one.
Wow.
Yeah, I got.
So that is a little bitty guy.
Yeah, I never go anywhere without too few animals.
Recent hatchling there.
This guy's actually was born last year.
You're kidding? That's a year old?
Yeah, that's a year old. So it's even
thing's not
smaller.
much bigger than a quarter, y'all.
I know, it's amazing.
Well, $50 at the most.
So this is a mud turtle, and this is closely related to our musk turtles. They're in the same family. And there's a loggerhead musk turtle, which is kind of funny because everybody tells me, oh, I saw a loggerhead, and automatically my mind thinks, oh, you need a loggerhead musk turtle. And then I'm like, oh, no, you mean snapping turtle. But our musk turtles are kind of what makes Mississippi and Alabama really special. We have a lot of different species of those. Alabama has one that's found nowhere else on earth but the Black Warrior River in Alabama, called the flattened musk turtle. And it's actually flattened to fit in those rocks, the big shelf rocks in the bottom of the river.
Wow.
Really cool turtles.
Wow. So if you were to cover up those rocks or let them silt in or something like that, that could really be bad for them.
That is one of the biggest problems facing that turtle. In fact, they are They are listed under the Endangered Species Act as federally threatened, and that's the primary cause of the problem. It's not people out there eating them or anything like that, but it's siltation. It's silt filling in those cracks in the rocks, and they've been lost from a lot of their range, except for in the Sipsey Wilderness area and the Bankhead National Forest. That's their stronghold.
Wow. Well, Jimmy, is there anything else about these turtles we need to know that you've
jailbreak again?
Yeah, I mean, we got the one trying to break out. I mean, I think it's important also to know just how imperiled, since we're talking about that, in general, turtles are. I mean, 60% of the turtle species worldwide are listed as imperiled, either threatened or endangered. And
wouldn't you say too, it's largely from just developing the world more than any actions we have?
Yeah.
Specific to me, Dudley, Bobby, it has to do with just because of the nature of how they are. They're slow. They live where they live. They don't
exactly. They're long lived.
That's right. And we're just developing land at such a rapid pace.
Absolutely. We're taking away their habitat. I mean, habitat destruction is a big one. I will say, I'd be remiss to not point out that in the case of the alligator snapper, one of the primary reasons they're in trouble actually is from humans. There was a big campaign back in the early 19th century about turtle soup. Campbell's even had, you could buy snapping turtle soup. And so that was a big problem facing our turtles. But again, we had big problems with all our wildlife species. But we enacted laws. We looked at their conservation. Now, unfortunately, a lot of that is not a North American problem anymore. But there is a big problem with people poaching turtles and shipping them overseas, primarily to Asian countries where they're used for medicine and food and things like that. There's some real stiff laws about importing and exporting turtles out of the United States.
Wow. Jimmy, you're an interesting person. And
thank you, Bobby.
We wish you luck getting your PhD. If we could influence Will Goolsby in any...
Yeah, you just put in a good word with Will.
Yeah,
I think we just did.
He's, Will knows. He knows.
Honestly, it's been a pleasure working with Will. And I mean, clearly I like wild turkeys, and so I like what he's got going on.
I love what him and Marcus and all those folks are sharing these days.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, they're doing some amazing work, and if it weren't for reptiles and amphibians, turkeys would be my passion. That's what I spend. He would note that I should spend more time in the spring working on my dissertation than turkey hunting, but it's really tough to pull me out of those woods.
That's tough.
Yeah. So when are we going to be able? You're going to be Dr. Jimmy Stiles?
Yeah. Hopefully, in just a few months. Yeah.
Well, we're looking forward to that.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That sounds the horns. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. So, these young people, we saw there was a post the other night that a young person was listening to our podcast, and it kind of influenced them to go to a wildlife school here at Mississippi State.
That's amazing.
So I get a kick out of thinking that young people are listening to this and learning that they could go be a biologist and study some of these.
Absolutely.
critters.
And I mean, that's one of the...
Follow your passion.
That's one of the reasons I love working with kids is... I've been doing it so long as you get to see kids, see your impact on kids, and then watch them, go to, school and study wildlife, and then, even, cross your fingers, grow up to be wildlife biologists and influence the natural world. It's an amazing cycle.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Amen. Absolutely.
So people can follow you on Facebook. It's just Jimmy Stiles, right?
Yeah, Jimmy Stiles is my Facebook, or Instagram, JR-Stiles75 on Instagram. And yeah, I'm always posting, my adventures out there, messing with turtles, or out and, fishing in the creeks, or hunting, or whatever.
Yeah, I enjoy following you. I would encourage people to check you out. So
awesome.
Thank you for bringing these animals. I know Mac
pleasure.
enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun, especially Tyson, you missed it when he brought the snakes a few
Oh, I
months
hate
back.
that.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Dadgummit.
Yeah. Hey, let me point out while we're here, one of our listeners, Trip Hill from Destin, Florida, is a Chick-fil-A owner.
Wow.
Operator. He sent us lunch today.
He did. It was Chick-fil-A was incredible. It's so
Thank
good.
you.
Yeah,
Yes,
it was excellent.
Yeah, we all macaroni and cheese
An
and brownies.
American icon of food right there.
It was
Chick-fil-A.
delicious. So if y'all get around Destin, his store is in downtown Destin, in the old part of Destin.
I've eaten there.
Well, we need to do that again
Yeah,
because Trip's a good
absolutely.
guy. We appreciate him doing that. So, Jimmy, do you ever get a chance to watch our television show on Tuesday nights, the Outdoor Channel?
I do. Absolutely. Yep.
We've had
That's a
some
good
people
one.
that I think you know. We had Tracy Wood with the
Yes.
Alabama with the Bears.
So
Yes,
we
you
had this
did.
conversation before this real quick, but I grew up, running the kind of Alabama river bottom down there in Clark County, Alabama, and he was from down in that world too. So we had a lot of things in common, very close. We might have crossed paths, who knows?
Y'all knew the same bends in the river.
We knew the same people, just like the
Stimson.
legendary Fred Pringle who ran the Fred
Yeah,
Simpson Sanctuary.
absolutely.
Knew him well too,
Yeah. I
Yep.
did some work out there on Stimson. and-
Very
and-
cool.
Yeah,
That's
Mr.
an
Pringle
amazing
is on my list of people I'd love to
Oh,
be able to
a legend.
He
Tell
is
me.
an amazing person. I mean, the stories he
That's
tells
incredible.
of trapping turkeys.
He's
and
such a
working
humble
with deer.
pioneer of turkeys that, there's no telling how many are alive today because of his work in those initial days when they were so fragile.
Oh yeah.
That's a different story altogether. But he just validated what I believed even more listening to him talk today about it.
Absolutely. I mean, yeah, him and the Stimsons and all that. I credit the turkeys I get to hunt today with all of their incredible work.
It's pretty selfless what was going on back then. down there.
Absolutely.
But, we talk about it. Put the critter first. It's amazing
Yep.
It is, yeah.
what
Yep.
you can do.
Yeah, that's a really amazing story because so many people don't think of that. So many people are selfish.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I mean, if you do stuff like that, the benefits down the road can be so much more. You
Yeah,
know?
that's a whole podcast right there. We'll have him back to that. But yeah, I think honestly, just like giving gifts, you get more than the people that get the gift. That's to me compounded by a crazy number when it's wildlife and God's creations out there that we get to take care of, as gamekeepers.
And it's
to
it's even more amazing that it's turkeys. Because watch this, Matt. Can I kill one of your turkeys this spring?
How many of you let me kill yours?
Yeah. See how that goes. It just,
Well,
it
yeah,
just
but that's different, Bobby. You had to bring out the dark side.
yeah.
I mean, the turkey hunters are a different breed of people.
Yeah, they are. Yeah,
Different
thank goodness.
breed of
I enjoy
people.
being around.
Whether
them. So-
you're a good turkey hunter or a not good turkey hunter.
We love them.
we're different
We all
breed-
love them.
We're all different
We all
breeds.
love them.
Yep. Well, guys, this has been a lot of fun. Y'all, please check out on Tuesday nights on the Outdoor Channel, the television show, The Gamekeepers of Mossy Oak. Richie works very hard on that show. Richie, and you're doing a great job.
Thank
Hit
you.
the horns for Richie. Yeah.
Absolutely.
He is a warrior when it comes to putting that show together. So, and,
Oh, Richie's blushing now.
and we appreciate everybody listening to the podcast, guys, very much.
Hey,
So,
ditto that.
did you have something you want to say, Richie?
No, it's been an honor to work on the Gamekeeper television show.
All right, Richie. Jimmy, thank you for driving all the way up here. Y'all,
Absolutely. My pleasure.
Travel safe back home, and we'll do this again with another. We'll pick out another species that you're
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
good at. All right, Dudley.
Yeah.
Say goodbye, Dudley.
Goodbye, Dudley. Get us out of here, Richie.
Thanks for tuning in to this week's episode of the Gamekeeper Podcast, and be sure to tune in again. Subscribe to Gamekeeper Farming for Wildlife magazine, and don't miss the Mossy Oak Properties Fistful of Dirt podcast with my good buddy, Ronnie Cuz Strickland.